Some simple data can show that the number of middle-class families, or the average middle-class index of ordinary families, is rising sharply. And at least several million families are moving towards middle-class status every year. For example, the food delivery industry is growing rapidly. In 2018, China's online food delivery market will grow by 55.05%, 35.97% in 2019, 15% in 2020, 18.2% in 2021, and 19.80% in 2022. The more you order takeout, the more you look like the middle class. For another example, families who newly buy a house or a car will be significantly closer to the middle class status. There are some people who fall in class, the house is cut off. The car is sold to pay off the debt, but the main reason is that there are many families who have jumped, and there are millions of families every year. In 2022, the sales area of commercial housing will be 1,358.37 million square meters, and the domestic sales of passenger vehicles will be 20.54 million, which will correspond to tens of millions of families. It should be noted that even if the sales of new houses and cars have dropped from the peak, the number of middle-class households is still rising. And those who are already in the upper class can generally maintain their middle-class status. In any case, the middle-class index of ordinary Chinese families is on the rise as a whole. Growth has slowed a bit, but it's by no means stagnant. Recently, due to multiple factors at home and abroad, the social atmosphere has been somewhat sluggish. Some middle-class families say that it is not easy to make money, it is not easy to change jobs and raise salaries, and the investment and consumption sentiment is somewhat low. These are all normal mood swings. No matter what, they are still middle class. Resident deposits have also increased, and investment and consumption are not active enough. It will increase by 17 trillion in 2022 and 11.91 trillion in the first half of 2023. When the mood gets better again, many worries will be fine. At present, consumption sentiment is recovering fairly well. Markets such as catering, tourism, and cultural performances are full of sentiment, and crowds have reappeared. The recovery of investment sentiment will be slower, and real estate and the stock market will continue to be positive. It is impossible to remain in a downturn, and recovery will lag behind. As interest rates continue to fall, huge deposits will always come out for activities again. It is a matter of time. The obvious long-term trend in China was the transfer of rural population to cities and urbanization, but the main stage has passed. The current long-term trend is that a large number of poor people and ordinary families continue to improve their living standards and keep approaching the middle class, that is, catching up with the living standards of developed countries. Judging from the exaggerated data that China's per capita consumption in the first half of 2023 is only 1/15 of that of the United States. The starting point for ordinary Chinese is still relatively low, but catching up has already begun for some time. The author does not advocate too complicated and grand analysis, or analysis of class antagonism, the division of rich and poor, excess productivity, or generalization to the overall economy because of the saturation of local markets such as real estate. Just look at the income growth of ordinary households, the trend is clear. Revenue growth. The income statistics of China's employed people, or more accurately, average wages of employees employed in urban non-private units, because formal units have clear reports. And income will basically be included in the statistics. In 2022, the average salary of employees in formal units will be 114,029 yuan, a year-on-year increase of 6.7%, which is 2.44 times that of 2012, and an average annual increase of 9.3%. This growth rate is really quite good, and the absolute value of annual income is not too low. Beijing and Shanghai have reached the level of 200,000 yuan. These formal units are divided into state-owned, urban collectives, limited companies, joint stock companies, foreign investment, etc. The main problem is that the number of employees is not too large. In 2021, the total number of people employed in formal units will only be 170 million, a decrease of 10 million compared to 2015. Practitioners who want to enter a formal unit meet thresholds such as establishment, work experience, and education, which is not easy. Those who are less formally employed in urban areas are employees in urban private units. The salary distribution is relatively extensive, and statistics are not easy. They are based on sampling statistics, and the errors are relatively large. In 2022, the average salary of private units will be 65,237 yuan, an increase of only 3.7% year-on-year, 2.27 times that of 2012, and an annual increase of 8.6%. The growth rate is lower than that of formal employment, and the absolute value is also much lower. There are 297 million people in informal employment in urban areas, a relatively large number, an increase of 42 million over 2017. In fact, the average salary growth rate was good before. In 2019, it was 2.95 times that of 10 years, with an annual increase of 11.4%, catching up with formal employment income. However, the growth rate has slowed down in the past 3 years. And the unstable, flexible employment has a large scale. According to different definitions, there are 100 to 200 million people, and the society's pursuit of formal employment has greatly increased. The overall situation of the national labor force is that from 2017 to 2021, it will decrease from 790 million to 780 million. Among them, urban employment was 467 million, an increase of 36 million. And rural employment was 279 million, a decrease of about 50 million. There were 170 million formal urban jobs, a decrease of 6 million, and 297 million informal jobs, an increase of 42 million.